Hi, and welcome to session 511, AV Capture Photo Output Beyond the Basics. This is a Chalk Talk addendum to session 501, Advances in iOS Photography. I'm Brad Ford. I'm an engineer on the Core Media Capture team at Apple. In session 501, we focused on AV Foundation's camera capture APIs, specifically the AV Capture Photo Output, which is a new interface for taking photos in iOS 10. This output supports capturing live photos, RAW plus DNG, wide color content, and preview or thumbnail images. If you haven't watched session 501 yet, I recommend pausing here and watching session 501 first. You'll get a lot more out of this addendum. In this session, we'll move beyond the AV Capture Photo Output basics and discuss two important topics we didn't have time for in session 501, namely scene monitoring and resource preparation and reclamation. Lastly, we'll spend a few minutes on an unrelated but still very important topic, camera privacy policy changes in iOS 10. By way of minimal review, the new AV Capture Photo Output has an improved interface that addresses some of AV Capture still image output's design challenges. AV Capture Photo Output uses a functional programming model. There are clear delineations between mutable and immutable data. It uses a separate object to encapsulate per photo settings called AV Capture Photo Settings. You pass it when making a photo capture request. It uses a delegate-style interface for tracking the progress of photo capture requests. This is called the AV Capture Photo Capture Delegate Protocol. All callbacks in the delegate protocol return an instance of AV Capture Resolved Photo Settings. This is an immutable object in which all photo settings have been resolved. AV Capture Photo Output also supports scene monitoring, using a subset of these capture objects I just talked about. Scene monitoring allows you to present UI that informs the user what scene-dependent features are currently active. In this screenshot of Apple's camera app, the user is clearly in a low-light situation. The flash iconography at the bottom of the screen indicates that the user is in auto flash mode, meaning the flash should only be used if the situation requires it. Apple's camera app is a client of AV Capture Photo Output, which performs scene monitoring to drive the flash active yellow flash badge that you see in the top middle. The presence of the yellow flash badge shows the user that if they take a picture now, the flash is going to fire. AV Capture Photo Output offers scene monitoring for two kinds of scenes. The first is the flash. All of Apple's current iPhone models, as well as the 9.7-inch iPad Pro, have a True Tone flash to illuminate dark scenes for the rear-facing iSight camera, and a Retina flash that turns your Retina display into a True Tone flash, illuminating it at up to 3 times normal in order to brighten up selfies in low light. The second type of supported scene monitoring is still image stabilization. Still image stabilization is a multi-image fusion capture that blends differently exposed images to reduce blur in low-light situations. It might not be totally obvious why still image stabilization is a low-light feature. It's not that your hands shake more in the dark. It's just that the camera needs to expose longer to gather the same number of photons, requiring the shooter to be very, very steady. Still image stabilization counters this problem by capturing multiple images at different exposures and then fusing them together to reduce noise and motion artifacts. So, at first glance, flash worthiness or still image stabilization worthiness would seem like orthogonal features, but they're actually closely related, and this causes some API ambiguity. Looking at this graph, we see the applicable light ranges for flash capture with and without still image stabilization. I've shortened still image stabilization to SIS for brevity. The blue bar represents the light levels at which the photo output will use the flash if you've opted in for SIS. The green bar represents the applicable light levels for flash if you've opted out of SIS. Note that with SIS on, the photo output can do without the flash in darker scenes. This is because SIS lowers the noise in the image to a point, so the flash is not needed. If your current scene's light level is, say, here, the answer to the question, "Is this a flash scene?" is a resounding yes. But if the light level is here, the answer depends on whether you're interested in using still image stabilization, and the inverse is true also. So, what to do? The AV Capture photo output doesn't know what kind of capture you want until you request it. But if you're using scene monitoring,